Welcome to IFERP, a forum where innovations and research interest could be supported and developed, prioritizing our mutual interest. In this video, we want Welcome to IFERP, a forum where innovations and research interest could be supported and developed, prioritizing our mutual interest. In this video, we want you to dive into our world, giving yourself a clear insight into IFERP. But first, who are we and what do we do? Institute for Engineering Research and Publication, IFERP for short, is one of the world's largest non-profitable professional associations operating under the Techno-Elite Research and Development Association, TRADA, meant for research and development in the field of engineering, science and technology. We are one of the largest professional bodies for engineering professionals in India and across the globe, established in 2014. We extend to every part of the globe, with more than 28,000 professional members and 34,000 student members. Our growing membership at IFERP has led to an increase in members from Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa and the USA, fostering networking opportunities that strengthen ties within and across countries and technical communities. The mission of IFERP is to connect professionals at an integrated platform for growth to divert knowledge and skills towards the sustainable application of professional education and more. And our vision of digitalizing innovation processes through our professional networking services and more has pushed us forward to our achievements today. With our mission to make our academic services reach the top and grassroots level of institutions, we are funding colleges to organize conferences and scientific events, enabling researchers incubated at different areas of our country to directly contribute towards the transformation of India. IFERP simply connects engineers, exchange global innovation, and acts as a bridge between researchers and academics by organizing international conferences, world conferences, faculty development programs, webinars, seminars, providing membership, and more. Some of our conferences include WCASET Malaysia, WCASET Jakarta, ICAS ETAM APU Malaysia, and many more. We've also organised scientific events in association with renowned universities done in the past, with over 28,593 journal publication services, creating opportunities to get your research paper published in high impact factor journals such as Scopus Indexed, Web of Science, Google Scholar Index journals, ESCI, UGC approved, L Compandax, ISI, Shimago Index journals, and many more. To make our operations smoother and more perfect, we have been supported by our associated organisation, Association of Cloud Technologists, Global Association of Nanotechnology, International Association for Big Data Analysts, International Association for IoT, International Wireless Network Association, and World Association for Structural Engineers. We have also worked alongside several clients and partners both nationally and internationally like University Malaysia Sabah, APU Malaysia, UNJ Jakarta, MC University.
Hello sir, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening everyone. Welcome to our webinar series on research article writing and advanced concepts. Today we are moving on to session 3 with our speaker of the day, Professor Muhammad Mamun Habib. And we'll be discussing on the difference between research paper, review paper, survey paper, and case study today. So I would like to thank and welcome our platform who has given us this opportunity, IFERP. And I would like to introduce the speaker of the day, Professor Dr. Muhammad Mamun Habib, who is a professor from School of Business, Independent University, Bangladesh. And he's also the visiting scientist at University of Texas, Arlington, USA. He is also the editor-in-chief in International Journal of Supply Chain Management. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. And welcome all the attendees who have joined us today. Good evening to all. And without any delay, we'll move on to our sessions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I see my slide and I can?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay,
so welcome to this session. This is day 3. And so this is the, I think you know that is a 5 days webinar series on research article writing and publications. So today we are going to start our 3rd day presentation. I'm so much delighted that I'm the speaker for today. Those are the present, those are the attending and the today's session. So the participant, I'd like to remind you that my email address are here. So if you have any query, then you can pass your query to me. I will try my level best to reply your query within 24 hours. Okay, so basically today our discussion on difference between a research paper, review paper, survey paper, and case study. So first of all, basically we'll spend long time on the research paper, and then we'll spend a little bit time on the review paper, survey paper, and case study. And then finally, I'll show you the 2 example, one from the review paper, another from the case study, so that you can just get some idea. And I like to remind you again that you see that we mentioned here research paper because basically this is the very common. This is very common for us, research paper. So you understand that means something, the paper that is based on the research. It will come up from your research project. It will come up from your existing any kind of study. Even you can produce the research paper based on a case study. You can produce the research paper based on the survey. You can produce the research paper based on the review paper. So that's why our first part of discussion will be research paper, and then we'll come to the discussion on the review paper, survey paper, case study. I think you remember in the last session I mentioned the research means search and again search, and you have to search from the online searching, and this is a starting point of searching. And Google is a platform which one you can apply for your searching option. So Google is the first option that you can search something from there. Even you like to get any kind of information, you have to go to the Google and you try to explore the knowledge from the Google. So that's why when you use the term this research, search and again search, you can start from the Google. You know, I always mention the Professor Google. That is that source of knowledge, a best search engine. Suppose you are thinking about what is the review paper. You just write what is the review paper in the Google, you can get it. Suppose today you introduce with someone, you like to get his introduction. No need to describe many things. You just try to find out his name or her name, and you can try to explore from the Google who is the person. So that's why I suggest you that when you do the research, your first ultimate target will starting point will be the Google searching. There's other searching option Google Scholar, Academic.edu, ResearchGate. I think I mentioned the last session as well. So I'd like to request you have to spend more time. So when you plan to search the research paper, that you have to use this kind of platform, Google Scholar, Academic.edu, ResearchGate. Basically, I believe that those are participants here today. Most of them you have a knowledge on that little bit about the research. So I like to request you have to spend more time on the Google Scholar, Academic.edu, and ResearchGate. And definitely, it is a best option that you have to open your own account. You should open your own account. If you open your own account, that could be another opportunity that you can interact with the people. You know, so I believe that most of them, you have the Facebook account. So very common Facebook account. So Facebook account, when you have, you are going to interact with the people. Similarly, Google Scholar, Academic.edu, ResearchGate on kind of a networking site. But this networking for the scholars, for the professors, for the academicians. That's why if you like to get the more information about the research paper, research idea, I suggest you can spend more time there. There is the other option, a researcher ID, Thomson Reuters ID, Scopus ID, ORCID ID. If you have a paper on the Scopus, if you have a paper on the Web of Science, then this kind of ID will be generated. This is automatically it will be created. So that means if you have a paper on the Scopus Index Journal or Web of Science Index Journal, then this ID will be created. If you have this ID, again, you can go to those, by using your ID, you can go to the research, Thomson Reuters, you can go to the Elsevier, you can go to the ORCID, and you can export the more research paper from there. You know that we are talking about the research paper. So how you could get the research paper? From where you can get the research paper? Definitely, you can get the research paper from the Emerald online databases, Elsevier, Scopus, ProQuest, EBSCOhost. There is lots of online database. You know what is the online database? Basically, online database is the storage of the databases. So if you go to the online databases, you can get the lots of research paper. I like to request that everybody you have a university. So if you have university affiliation, try to find out that your university which online database are available. If any online database is available, I suggest you spend more time on the online database. That is another way how you can get the research paper. You know, there is a next option is that open access. You know that there are two type of access. One is that open access, another is the traditional access or conventional access. Open access is a free. You know that when you are search anything in the Google, when you search anything in the Google, I think you notice that sometimes you could not download. Sometimes you can download. If you see that you could not download, that means this is not the open access, traditional access, conventional access. So one of the target is that open access means it's a free access. So I suggest you that when you when you try to download from the Google, don't think that everything will be could possible to download. Some of the papers could be downloaded. Some of the paper could not be downloaded. If it is if the download is possible, that means it is open access. If download is not possible, this is a traditional access, conventional access. So why not you can do another one thing? Directly, can you go to the open access? So I suggest you that if there is open access, directly you can go to there. What is the example of the open access? I give you the one example of the open access. It's Intech. Intech Open Access Publisher. Intech is the leading open access in the world. Basically, they started their journey in 2004, and then 2009 they are indexed in the Scopus as well as Web of Science. So that would be one option for you, Intech. So what I said that if you go to the Intech, whatever you can download, it's a free access. So you'll not bother about whether is available to download or not, because you know there is open access, free access you can download. On the other hand, if you go to the traditional access like McGraw-Hill, Research Publication, and Amazon, Nova Publisher, those are the traditional publishers. So you have to purchase from there. Sometimes difficult. That's why I suggest you that it is better that you have to go to directly the open access. You can download the research paper. You know, I'm talking about the research paper, but before that, I like to give you the definition of the research paper, or there's some idea of the research papers. If you look very carefully here, I'm going to I'm showing you basically the definition. Research paper is based on the original research. Now I just give the idea, and then again I'll come back after the finish the remaining discussion. A research paper is based on the original research. So what is the original research? I'll discuss now. The kind of research may vary depending on your field or the topic. It could be experiment, it could be survey, it could be interview, it could be questionnaire. But authors need to collect, analyze raw data, and conduct an original study. So what I said, the kind of research may vary depending on your field or the topic, like experiments, survey, interview, questionnaire, etc. But authors need to collect and analyze the raw data and conduct a original study. So we need the data. And that is our discussion. I'll discuss these issues, how we can get this data. There is a primary data, there is a secondary data, but how you could get it, I should discuss that today. And then what I said that you have to do the original study based on this one. So maybe you need the experiment, maybe you need the survey, you need the interview, you need the questionnaire. But then maybe you can produce that original research. This is the research paper. The research paper will be based on the analysis, interpretation of this data. I already mentioned. So that means you understand. I mentioned it. This is that research paper is original research, and maybe you have to collect the data, and then you have to analyze the data. This data could be the primary data or secondary data. This data could be the primary data or secondary data. I'll discuss about these issues later on. What is the primary data? What is the secondary data? Okay, so our discussion based on this one, that how we can get this kind of data, how we can do the research paper. Then again, I'll come back this slide, and that time I'll discuss about the research paper versus review paper. So this next almost that 45 minutes on the research paper first, which is very important. Then we'll come back here. But when you discuss the research paper, we'll also discuss about the review, survey, other something. So when you come back here, I think that it will be more easier for you to understand about the research paper. So let's go back to our lecture. You remember I'm talking about this one, that how you can start the research paper. And now I assume that you have the research paper. And if you have a research paper, then how you can read the research paper, how you can review the research paper. Look, so suppose, why we are using the research paper. Just like I mentioned, research paper is original research, right? So how you could get the new idea, how you can get explore the new concept from the research paper. The best option is that when you have any paper, research paper, first of all, you have to read the abstract. First of all, you have to read the abstract. This is the first job. So you have to review the abstract. I think you remember in the last session we discussed how you construct the abstract. And then after, if you understand that abstract, then the next option you should go to the conclusion. You see, then go to the conclusion. So go to the conclusion. In the conclusion, try to find out, is there any findings? Is there any findings there? If you get it, that's fine. And then if you couldn't get the final, no problem, then you can see, is there any recommendation in the paper? If you get the recommendation, that's fine. If you couldn't get the recommendation, okay, no problem. Let's see, is there a limitation? They're mentioning limitation. Is there any implication they're mentioning? If they have any kind of the research paper, they have the model, definitely they will mention with the implication. You know that I always mention the future works will start from the limitation. So when you do the research, your own research paper, you try to mention these things. Because when you will review the papers of others authors, so you'll check, is there any finding, is there any recommendation, is there any limitation, is there any implication, is there any future works. So if you review their works in this way, then why not, when you will design your own research paper, you have to mention these things. Okay. I just remind you one thing is that if you could understand that abstract at first, if you could understand that conclusion, and this the fundamental few something you need it. If you have, then you have to go to the inside of the paper, introduction, literature review, another something. But you know what is our target? Our target, how you get the new idea, because you have to do the research, original research. Okay, so let us start. This is a different classification of the research paper. Means we know the research paper, but it is a different way how we can classify the research paper. The first of all, the exploratory research, descriptive research, causal research, exploratory research. If you have to explore the new idea, new concept, explore. You have to identify the new concept, new idea. Initial research conducted to clarify and define the nature of a problem. Initial research conducted to clarify and define the nature of a problem. How we can do this one? The best option is that you have to review the previous papers, previous relevant paper, related papers, or maybe the previous studies. Your area, your target is, let's say, economics. You like to do the research on economics. What type of research on economics? Microeconomics. So you try to find out the few papers in the microeconomics, and then try to define the nature of a problem. And what I say, the exploratory research does not provide any conclusive evidence. Does not provide any conclusive evidence. No conclusive evidence. I always mention there is no finishing point of the exploratory research. You can do the research, but you never claim that we have done everything. You'll do the research, and at the same time, you have to mention what is the limitation of your research. You'll do the research, at the same time, you have to mention what is the limitation of your research. So this is very important. So not only that, you have to mention that what would be your further study. You have to mention your own research. This is our research, but this is our further study. Or you can suggest for the prospective researcher, they can start from your research. So what I mentioned here, that exploratory research does not provide any conclusive evidence. There is no conclusive evidence. And subsequent research is expected. Further research, future research is expected. So it means that you have to ensure this one, that this is our exploratory research. It means that doesn't provide any conclusive evidence, and then further research is required. Subsequent research is expected. So you are expecting the further research based on your research. That is exploratory research. I'll come to the next slide, and that time I'll mention about this one. In terms of the problem identification, in terms of certainty. So before that, let me finish this one at first. So exploratory research. Now, if you ask me that, which is the exploratory research? PhD research. PhD research. Or maybe that if you develop a new model, develop the new model, new concept is exploratory research. And then come to the next one, the descriptive research. Descriptive research describes the characteristics of population or phenomenon, object, organization. Basically, descriptive research is based on the case study. Descriptive is based on the case study. So look very carefully. Descriptive is the case study. Do you remember today our discussion is the difference between the research paper, case study paper, something like that. So if you do the case study, somebody can ask you, is it the research? Yes, it's the research. But based on the case study approach, descriptive research. Describe the characteristics of population or phenomenon, object, organization. In terms of the nature of the problem, some understanding of the nature of the problem, few understanding, as is the case study. Jejila, are you there? I provided you 2 emails regarding the 2 papers, one from the
Yes,
review
sir.
paper, another from the case study. So
Yes. We'll upload and show the
Please. Thank you so
examples,
much.
sir.
So I'll show you today the 2 papers so that you can understand this example what I just now mentioned. So descriptive is based on a case study, based on organization. So suppose you're doing the research, customer satisfaction on KFC. So KFC, you're familiar with the KFC, right? So sometimes you can go there, you can take your meal there. So as you are familiar with this one, you have some understanding. When you say customer satisfaction on the KFC, or if you say customer satisfaction on the McDonald's, you're familiar. So some understanding of the nature of the problem you have. So that is a descriptive research. I'll discuss a little bit more about this in the next slide. And then causal research. Basically, it is the cause and effect relationship. Conducted to identify the cause and effect relationship. What is the causal research? So a comparative study. If you do the comparative study, it is a causal research. What kind of comparative study? So you have a new product. Now you like to launch this product. So in order to launch this product, you have 2 marketing policies. One is the online marketing. I think you are familiar with the online marketing. One is the online marketing, another is that traditional marketing. Traditional marketing very simple. Like you can add the advertisement in the newspaper, you can take the brochure, you can provide the one page of the photocopy of the advertisement, and you can distribute something like that. And online means Facebook posting, website posting, any kind of advertisement, something like that. So what I said, the cause and effect relationship. So now come to the decision. So what I said that you like to launch a new product, and now the question will be there. If I like to launch this new product, then what will be our best marketing strategy? What are the best marketing strategies? Whether online marketing or traditional marketing? Okay. So you look back, we have two options. Which one? Online marketing, traditional marketing. If the online marketing is the best, so traditional marketing will not be best. If the traditional marketing is the best, online marketing will not be best. So you have understanding. You understand only two options, and you have to choose which one is the best. We call it cause and effect relationship. Causal research. So what is the example of the causal research? Like what I mentioned just now. Causal research means the cause and effect relationship. Comparative study. Comparative study between the two, or comparative study among the three or four. We call it the causal research. So now come to the point. You understand causal research, you see your two options, and from the two options you have to choose the best one. Very easy to identify. And you have the understanding, fully understanding you have. Exploratory research, descriptive research, causal research. We are discussing various types of research papers so that you can think when it comes to our main discussion, what is that? So now I like to differentiate exploratory, descriptive research and causal research in terms of error of problem and in terms of certainty. Look on the next slide. Look very carefully. Exploratory research. I like to request you check the blue color. Unaware of problem. So problem clearly unaware, uncertain. So what I said that the problem is not clear at all. Descriptive is aware of problem. Problem, okay, you have some understanding. And then the causal is problem clearly defined. You know that what I say just a few minutes before. The expert is, what is the example of expert research? The PhD research. If you develop the new model. You know, it's very interesting thing is that, say, suppose if we come to the decision, the third law of Newton of motion, or Archimedes theory, this kind of theory, they had no intention to develop the theory. At a certain moment, they develop the theory. So you know that when you do the PhD, or those have the PhD, I think you know that, you agree with me. You know the certain level that you had one target to pursue the PhD, but when you will finish your PhD, you understood that it was only your initial thinking to develop this model. So that means the last 3 years, 4 years, 5-year journey, you are coming to this model. That's why I said that, no problem. But what I said that earlier, descriptive research, the problem, a little bit understanding you have. So yeah, ever a problem. In causal research, I only mentioned this is a problem clearly defined because this is comparative study between 2 or 3. And now come to the in terms of certain. Exploratory research, absolutely ambiguity. Totally uncertain. You know, the many people, they are doing the research, they're doing the PhD, but they couldn't finish. The many researchers, they are planning to develop a new model, new concept, new idea. Unfortunately, they could not do. Absolute ambiguity, totally uncertain. And on the other hand, the descriptive research, certain. And causal research, completely certain. Look very carefully. Exploratory research, another problem. What I mentioned earlier. And now we measure absolute ambiguity, completely uncertain. Descriptive is earlier mentioned error problem. Now I mentioned in terms of certainty, certain. Causal research, completely certain. Earlier I mentioned complete clear problem clearly defined. So we differentiate exploratory research, descriptive research, causal research. in terms of the certainty, in terms of problem. Okay, I just recall that example. Export reserve, what is the example? PhD research. Descriptive research, what is the example? I mentioned the KFC, McDonald case study. Causal research, give the example. Suppose which are the best marketing strategy, traditional marketing or the online marketing policy. Okay, that is something. So go back to our earlier slide. So we are talking about the research, but you notice the expert research, descriptive research, causal research. And we already got the two things. One is research paper, another case study. We got it. Now, another way you can define the research. What is it? Basic research, applied research. Look, and then I think you can understand some link up. Basic research means research conducted without a specific decision in mind. You remember earlier when we discussed the definition of the research paper, that time we mentioned about this one, the original research. Basically, original research belongs to the basic research. Original research belongs to the basic research. Research conducted without a specific decision in mind. Nothing in your mind at first, but you have to do the research, and finally you will get something from there. So it could be the pure research, what I mentioned earlier, or it could be like original research, what I said earlier. And not only that, it is very interesting thing is that you have to remember that earlier I mentioned that exploratory research. Earlier I mentioned that exploratory research. Do you remember that, right? That is the basic research. In the last slide I mentioned the exploratory research. So this exploratory research is the basic research. And what I said that time, there is no conclusive evidence. And what is the example I mentioned? PhD research. Okay. And now come to the next one, applied research. Applied research. Research on the real life problem. Research on real life application. Real life problem, real life application. So what is that? I think you remember that earlier I mentioned that KFC, McDonald's, customer satisfaction on KFC or customer satisfaction on the McDonald's. So basically this kind of application based, real life application. So what I mentioned here, that is a basically real life problem. So let us do one example. Before that, I like to ask Jazila, can you see some of the audience if they send the chat box, they cannot see the video or audios that are available. Can you just assist them?
Yeah, and we have told them to watch on YouTube live. Because of some technical issues, there is some problem that they cannot attend, see from the webinar jam, but it is telecasting live on YouTube. We have given the link.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. So what I said that real life application. What is the example? Say you like to know the problem. How could you solve the traffic jam problem in Calcutta? How could you solve the traffic jam problem in Calcutta? So now first question will be there. You are from Calcutta, West Bengal. So you are familiar with the traffic jam problem of the Calcutta. As you are familiar with this one, there is a real life application. And so what is your decision? You decide, okay, let's do one thing. You can take some survey of the stakeholders. Those are connected with the traffic jam. So you can take the interview of the people, those are in the road. So what is their opinion about the traffic jam problem and how you can get the solution? You can ask their opinion. So you like to do some survey. So based on the survey, you like to come to the research paper. So this is based on the survey. Okay, and this is a real life application, applied research. If you ask me that, the previous slide, how the connectivity, basically, exporter is the basic research, And descriptive and causal research is that applied research. Descriptive and causal research is applied research. So on the vice versa, you can understand now that how we can come to the applied research and basic research. Before going to the next slide, I just remind you one thing is that just now I mentioned about the survey. So there is applied research, but it is based on the survey. So traffic jam problem, you like to do the research. Before that, you have to do the survey. Or when do the survey, so your findings come up based on the survey paper. Based on the survey paper. So that is the applied research. And then the quality and quantity research. You know that make it very simple. The quality and quantity research. This is a research paper. We are talking about the research paper. But quality research is that descriptive research and conclusive. Descriptive research and conclusive research. Quantity research is that explored no conclusive evidence. We can make it very simple. Quantitative research. So quantitative research, quantity will come up from the quantity. Quantitative research, it will come up from the quantity. Quantity means number. Number means numerical values. Numerical values means statistics. Statistic analysis. So quantitative research will come up from the statistic analysis based on the statistics. Quantitative. It will come up from the quantity, number, numerical values, statistics, statistic analysis. So if you do any kind of survey, any kind of statistic analysis, it belongs to the quantitative research. You see, we mentioned qualitative in the left side, quantitative right side. So you can see that we mentioned the purpose of the quality research, the descriptive and conclusive. Small sample. If the small sample is the quality research, but quantity research it could be the large sample, no problem. Quality research, the questionnaire would be the broad range of questioning, but the quantity research is the structured question. What is the example of the quality research? Say you like to do the research on the dinosaur. They like to do the explore the new research that why the dinosaur you don't see now. We are familiar with the dinosaur from the movie, but now question is that why you couldn't get lots of dinosaur nowadays. So what you can do, you have to find out the expert on dinosaur. And dinosaur is the part. If you think that expert on dinosaur means anthropology. You have to find out some expert on anthropology. Those have some idea about the dinosaur. You don't have the idea of the dinosaur, so you cannot prepare the questionnaire. It is a broad range of questioning. Broad range of questioning, and then maybe you can get the few experts, like maybe 2 or 3 experts. So you can take the interview, online interview. Based on their online interview, you have to explain it. Based on their only 2 or 3% interview, you have to explain it. We call it subjective interpretation. Subjective interpretation. What I said here, you have to take the only 2 or 3% interview, small sample, and you should not ask any specific question because you don't have any idea. So you can discuss with them, and from there you can try to find out something. And from there, you have to write down something based on your opinion, subject interpretation.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Viewers are able to watch now live. So those who have missed the initial part, you need not worry. We have been telecasting it live on YouTube as well. So if you haven't watched the first part, it's okay. You can watch towards the end. And still, if you're having any network issue, you can log into our YouTube channel. We have given it in the chat box over here. Thank you, sir. You may continue.
No problem. No problem. And you know, Zazila, that today, yesterday I used a Firefox. So when I log in there, they asked me that I already connected once a time, so I should use a different browser. Then I again log in from the Chrome. So I think this problem they are also facing.
Yeah, for webinar jump, Google Chrome is very essential.
Yeah. That's okay. No problem. Thank you. So what I said that if you do the research, the quality research, like you like to do the research on the dinosaur, what I say, anthropology research. So you have to find the few expert, 2 to 3 expert, and you can take the interview, but you don't have the enough idea about this one. So that's why what you can do, you can go to the directly to the broad range of questioning. You can ask them, can you give a brief idea of the dinosaur? They'll mention something based on their opinion. Then you can write down something, and you can come up with some decision. That's why we use the term subjective interpretation. It's not like they predefine everything, not the structured question. I use the unstructured question. So that's why you quality research. On the other hand, if you go to the quantity research, what I said here, large sample, maybe 200, 300, 400 respondents. And there is a structured question. Very structured question, because you are familiar. You like to do the research on the one topic. And then you can use the statistical analysis. So what is the target? You target that at least that 300 respondents. You see what I said that? You just 300 respondents, 400 respondents. Based on that, you come to decision, statistical analysis. So that means you have to do the survey, and as you do the survey, then statistical analysis, then quantitative research. So what I mentioned here, quality research, quantitative research. Example, you only mentioned philosophy research, psychology research, anthropology research, sociology research. On the other hand, the quantitative research means business administration research, engineering research, something like that. So that means try to be more specific. Any quantity research, and no quantity, just theoretical something, and then some of the discussion, interview, and come up the decision from there. We call it subject interpretation. In that case, the quality research. We are talking about the research paper, like various type research paper. That's why I'm saying this example, quantity research paper. Earlier we mentioned basic and applied research. Then earlier we mentioned exploratory, descriptive, and causal research. Basically, this is the research papers. I think we got the little bit idea in the last session. I don't want to talk too much about this one. Then how we can get the tips to write the paper. I mentioned that suppose even the university undergraduate level, BTech students, they have a semester project. From the semester project, faculty member they can think to publish the publication, to publish the paper. That could be the suppose the case study, or maybe the review paper, or maybe the research paper as well. So this is not the matter, but this is the publication. And even if you do if you get the class, we call class lecture, we call it the theoretical knowledge. And now you're going to the professional field, real life application. You're doing the job, so you try to find out what is the difference, what you have learned in the class lecture, and what is observed here. So there is a gap between that theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge. From there, you can publish the publication. Say, suppose you are working the Tata, what department? And quality management department. And in the undergraduate level, you have learned suppose total quality management (TQM). So what you have learned in the class lectures, theoretical knowledge. Now, what is you observing in the Tata as your work in the quality department? And that is the way. If you see there is some gap, there is some challenge, based on that you can publish the paper. So that is the way that how you can publish the paper. There are various types of the papers, research papers like conference paper, journal paper, book chapter, and then a book, solo book. I don't want to talk too much about this one because more or less you have idea, but try to understand that how we can present the research paper. So the first of all, the conference paper. So suppose in conference paper, you have to present the paper. I just remind you again, it could be research paper, it could be case study, it could be survey paper, it could be whatever it's called, you can present the paper. So in the conference, you can present anything. It is not the necessary to mention, this is the survey paper, this is a case study, that we cannot present. You can present. Even it is a review paper, literature review, you can present, no problem. That is not the matter at all. So conference, we have to present the paper. And journal paper, basically you are very familiar with this one, the journal paper. The same process that you have the on conference paper. At that conference is based on a case study. And now you like to publish that case study as a journal paper. No problem, you can. Yes. What you can do, you have to ensure some of the few contents. I think in the first day you have learned that how you can produce a journal paper, and last day you have learned how you could produce a conference paper. So if you like try to apply this one, that's enough. You can publish the paper in the conference paper as well as in journal paper. Okay. But in the research paper, suppose you are doing the PhD. So you have done the chapter 1, introduction, and now chapter 2, literature review, the PhD. And based on the introduction, based on the literature review, you can publish the paper in the journal. Based on the introduction, based on the literature review, you can publish the paper for the journal paper. It's possible to publish. Okay? It's possible to publish. But make sure that, yeah, this is very important thinking that when you submit, sure that the paper quality should be better than conference paper. You remember in the last session I mentioned that conference paper is the primary school and journal paper is that high school. So you like to present the paper in the conference, no problem. But in journal, you have to think quality of the paper. Quality of the paper. And not only that, plagiarism is the issue. We use different software to find out the plagiarism, similarity index. So that is, for journal, we need to visit. Say Scopus in the journal paper or Web of Science in the journal paper. We like to visit about the similarity index, not more than 20%. On the other hand, for conference, we can go until 40%. For conference paper, we can go until 40%. But in journal paper, we can go maximum 20-25%. That is the difference in terms of quality of conference paper and journal paper. I don't want to talk about determine how you can determine journal paper. We don't want to talk. Editor book. Basically, this is also the one kind of research paper. And now you can ask me, oh, that means what is editor book? Editor book means there will be one book, one specific topic, say supply chain management. Now you can send the call for book chapter. You can send the call for book chapter for this book. So you can choose that those are the experts on supply chain management, and you can explore the 50 experts on supply chain management. Okay, that's fine. Now you can send the email to call for book chapters to 50 authors, and among the 50 authors, some 20 authors they submitted the book chapters, and then publisher they will select the one editor of the book, and this editor could be come up from the 20 book chapter authors. So the publisher they will check that the scientific CV of the book chapter authors, and then come up with the decision about the editor of the book. Editor of the book is responsible to review the book chapter and come up with the decision. And now this book chapter, it could be the research paper, it could be the case study, it could be survey paper. So what I said that it could be the review paper, no problem. So review paper or research paper or case study or survey paper, no problem. Okay. And I always mention that it is very easy to publish a book chapter. You see, you just think in this way. If anybody asks you, can you write the 15 or 20 pages? And it can take the 1 month. But if anybody says, can you write the 200 pages? How long it will take? It will take them maybe 1 year, 2 years. So what is editor book will consist of the various book chapters. Editor book consists of the various book chapters. So each book chapter will be written by the different authors, 10 to 15 pages, and then editor will compile everything, editor book. And then editor name will be available in the cover page of the book. And the book chapter's name and book chapter's author's name will be available inside of the book. So this is very common, book chapter. This is one example of the book chapter. This is the name of the book, Supply Chain Management Applications for manufacturing service industries, and then editor is at my name is there as editor. Finally, the sole author book. It is also research paper. You like to publish the one book based on the one research, okay? You research area on supply chain management, or maybe the online marketing. So you must get the offer from the publisher to write the one book. We call it sole author book. The whole book will be written by the one author. The whole book will be written by the one author or two or the three author, but whole book. And what I said earlier, if you ask you to write the 15 pages, 20 pages, or if anybody asks you to write down the 200 pages, which is easy? Definitely 15 to 20 pages is easy. So that's why editor book is more convenient rather than sole author book. Sole author book, suppose you're the professor, maybe you got the offer from the McGraw-Hill. McGraw-Hill, they will ask you, Professor, we like to publish your own book. Which area? In your area. Okay, how long time do you need? I need the 1 year. And now, before 1 year, you notice he couldn't finish. Before 1 year, you notice he couldn't finish. Then you can request them, can I get the more time? They said, no problem, Professor, you can take the more time. Because it's an honor, best honor for the sole author book. That's why the duration depends on the sole author book. So that is the basically research. This book will come from the research, maybe PhD research or master thesis. This research paper you can publish as a book. Okay. So that is your discussion on the research papers. So like what type of research papers we notice? We notice here that conference paper, journal paper. We only notice conference paper, journal paper, and book chapter we call it editorial book. And finally, the sole author book. Okay, there's a different types of research paper. This is one example of sole author book. You see the name of the book: Research Methodology, Contemporary Practices, and the guidelines for the academic researchers. And 3 authors. There are 3 authors. And the first one, and remaining 2, my student, my ex-student, ex-colleague. So that means that these 3 authors, they are responsible to write the whole book. The sole author book. Okay. It is totally come up from the research. This is what. Okay. I think we have done our first part for today that we discussed about the research paper. I think you have now idea that how we can design the research paper, what is the research paper, various types of research paper. And then I'll discuss about the outline of research paper later on. And now again come back here. This is the definition, what I said earlier. This is research paper definition. And what we mentioned here that a research paper based on the original research. It is based on the original research. Yeah. Unique research, few research. And authors need to collect the analyze raw data. This raw data will come up from the secondary data or primary data. And conduct the original study. What is the primary data? Primary data means survey. If you do the survey, it's the primary data. Secondary data means already existing, already available in the conference proceedings, is available in the journal, is available in the book chapter, is available in the book. The research paper will be based on the analysis and interpretation of this data. The research paper will be produced based on this one. Analyze the data, interpret the data. This is a research paper. Jazila, should we take the question end of the session?
However possible, sir. At the end or in between, anyhow, it's okay.
I'd like to request, because we are going to start the second part for today.
Okay, fine.
Can you take the 1 or 2 questions now at this moment, and then you can?
Fine.
Yeah, please.
One of the question is, does collecting data or creating data is included in research paper?
Good question. Yeah, the data collection could be done by the 2 ways. One is the primary data and the secondary data. Secondary data is available in the conference proceeding, journal paper, book chapter, books. And the primary data means the survey. That is, you have to do the survey. You have to collect the data. Secondary is existing data already available. You have to just review and come to the decision. But primary data, survey data, you have to collect. Now you have to take the 200 respondent, 300 respondent, or 400 respondent. It depends on your sampling procedure. It depends on the sampling procedures as well as the sample size. Whether you have a known population or unknown population, based on that you have to decide. Okay. So definitely the data collection or data using, exit data using, based on that you have to produce the paper, research paper. Okay. Next.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So next question is where to publish survey paper. Can we publish survey paper in book chapters?
Good question. Possible. Possible.
Okay.
You know that in the next session, not today, I'll discuss about the academic writing. If you could maintain the academic writing, even the survey paper you can publish the book as a book chapter. So it depends on your writing quality, academic writing style. But you have, you know, there are the two things, or I always mention. One is the findings is the most important thing. Another is the writing style. We call it academic writing. If the writing style, the academic writing is up to the standard, it paper will be accepted. So that's why I said that it is possible, but you have to ensure the quality of the academic writing.
Okay, okay. And we'll take 2 more questions.
Yes.
The next question is research paper better than review or case study paper?
Definitely. Definitely. Research paper is a unique something, original research. You develop the one model. You develop the new concept, new idea. That is unique. And you'll be surviving the world based on this model, based on this research. But review paper is easy. I'll discuss the review paper now, then I think you can get more idea. But what I said that, why not you can convert this review paper or case study or survey paper up to the standard. That is our target. That you know that it's a review paper, it's not up to the standard, but we have to create that level. That's so that you can publish the paper. Yeah, I'll show you that example today. Okay. Please.
The person who has asked before about the survey paper, he had a question back to us asking, like you said, like it is possible to publish a survey paper in a book chapter. So he was asking, how about the plagiarism part of it?
Good question. You know, when you do the survey is the people's opinion. And the people's opinion never could be same. And then what I said, you're taking the interview of the 100 respondents. If you take the interview of the 150 respondents, not the same. Even if you take the same research, same respondent, 100, 150, now you're taking the 200 respondents, you're not the same. So what I said that is always changing. So when they're changing, the people's opinion changing. So why you are thinking about the plagiarism issue? So your findings will be changed. So what I mentioned that it depends on your number of respondents. And we always mention, even these questions come up as you're asking me. Even you're using the one case study. Based on the one case study you're doing, say customer satisfaction on KFC. When you do this research, customer satisfaction on KFC in the Chennai area, customer satisfaction on KFC in the Calcutta area, even the same research you're doing, even you're doing the case study, but you're taking the respondent for the Chennai area, you're taking the respondent for the Calcutta area. It's not the same. The findings will be different. There is no issue that, yes, title could be same, but that not means that your content will be same. It not means that your findings will be same. Findings will be different because you're taking the different respondents of different people's opinion. Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll just take one last question for the first part. Most often there is a delay in publication of a paper when there are multiple authors. So what is the advantage of a single person being the author?
Thank you. Good question. Yeah, but may I know the name of the question asking the question?
Maybe we'll not share the name.
Okay,
the
no,
question.
but he or she is a PhD student or master's level student or the faculty member. This is my question.
Okay, okay. We don't know about it, sir. It was
okay, no problem. Okay, so you know that it's very interesting question. Say you are the BTech student or MTech student, master's level student or undergraduate level student. You are taking the challenge to publish the paper. It's very difficult. So definitely you should take the help from the supervisor or faculty member. So when you take the help from the supervisor or faculty member, they will be the co-author of you. So you'll be the first author as is your paper, and as they are advising you, they're revising their paper, they're helping you, assisting you. They'll be the second author. And now come to the question is that why don't I can publish the paper by single? If you single the paper, there's a question will be there that it is reviewed by someone the expert or not. So that's why we always prefer at least the one will be expert will be there. Whatever supervisor or advisor, or maybe the faculty member, or maybe the senior people, or maybe the PhD supervisor, something like that, so that there is no question will be there. And if you publish the one single paper, that is the best option. But again, I remind you, in terms of the financial contribution, university they will fund you if you are single author, but university they will fund you the good paper if it is published. So you are maintaining the okay, I am the single author, I will publish the paper, but unfortunately you couldn't maintain the quality. And we always mention the research, if the 2 or 3 people, that will be the more good work, good quality works. But unfortunately, what happens, many are in the world, even the single author, the first author, he's working or she's working, and remaining author, they did not do anything. They are just using their name. And now come to the question, who are there? Maybe they are the dean of the university, he's the vice chancellor of the university, or maybe the senior professor, so that they can take some privilege from the first author. And I'd like to request you that it is a very common practice all over the world. It's happening. Even the many supervisor, PhD supervisor, they're changing the sequence of the authors. So it happens in the UK, it happens in the US as well. So my personal request to the author, if you are the first author, yes, if you think that I can take this person name as second author, but definitely you should confirm the 2 things. On-time service. You need the help, you have to ask them, sir, I need the help within the 15 days. Is it possible for you? If he or she said yes, then you have to use his or her name as a second author. So that at the same time you are getting the some help in terms of paper improvement. At the same time, they also use their name as a second author. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for replying to the questions. We'll continue the session.
Yeah.
And the sample manuscript you want me to share now,
No.
or the second part?
Yeah, later. Okay.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Then
thank
you may
you.
continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about the research paper for a long time. Now come to the review paper. This question is there. What is the meaning of the review paper? A review article is based on the other published articles. I remember that I mentioned earlier, primary data, secondary data. Secondary data means those are already existing, like conference paper, journal paper, book chapter, books already available. Now you like to read those review articles and then come up the one review paper. I'll give the one example later on. It does not report the original research. You are review that suppose 5 to 8 papers and compiling them. So there is a collection, a review paper. Review articles generally summarize the existing literature on a specific topic in an attempt to explain the current state of the understanding of the topic. I always mention this one, that you have to understand that how many papers you are taking to review, and then you have to decide. What I said there, the review articles generally summarize the existing literature on a topic in an attempt to explain the current state of understanding on the topic. Say, I like to give one examples. You like to do the research on, say, supply chain management. We just mentioned that is service industry supply chain management, a literature review or review paper. It means that you're collecting the papers, those are in the field of the service industry supply chain management. You understand what is your target? You target service industry supply chain management. That's why you're collecting those papers. So you're not collecting all papers. You like to collect only the service industry supply chain management papers, and then based on the come up with the decision. Review papers from valuable scientific literature as they summarize the findings of the existing literature. What I said earlier, that you are with a few papers. So when you review the papers, how will you review the paper? I'll explain earlier. You have to check the abstract at first. Then you have to check the conclusion. In the conclusion, you have to check, is there any findings, is there any recommendation, is there any further study. Based on that, you have to write your own review paper. Readers can form an idea about the existing knowledge on a topic without having to read all published work in the field. You know, but why you are publishing the review paper? If you ask me, I would say that you are doing this one, compiling the other paper, so that the readers, those are the interested researchers, they will read the 8 paper. They will read your paper. If they read your paper, you are explaining the 8 papers. So that means that it's better, easy to get the access. While written review articles are popular, particularly in the field of medicine and the healthcare industry, most reputed journals publish the review articles. However, you should check the website of the journal whether they wish to publish or not. Because you know that reputed journals, they are willing to do this one. But question is the quality of the paper. If published in a good peer-reviewed journal, review articles often have the high impact and receive a lot of citations. Lot of citations. You know, I like to give the one example of the review paper so that you can get some idea about this one. Okay. Jessila, can you show the chapter review paper, please? Are you there? Jazil, are you there?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. Can I get the paper now?
Yeah.
You know, just I like to show you one book chapter. I like to show you one book chapter. Basically, it's a review paper, and you can surprise that it's possible to publish the book chapter. Yes. Yeah.
Can you see
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
sir?
yeah. Can you increase a little bit or not?
I have put it on full screen.
Can you? The right side is not necessary to show.
Okay.
Yeah. You can close the right. That's why you send your Microsoft file.
Okay.
Can you do or not? Or they have
Google Docs.
Yeah, they have
Yeah,
the.
I have already shared with them also.
Yeah. So I think they have, right? So you can do the start. Okay. Look, the title: Supply Chain Management Theory and Evolution. Do you understand this one, right? Supply chain management theory and evolution. It means that we are talking about the supply chain theory and evolution. Look very carefully. It's a review paper. It's a review paper. It's a very interesting thing. Look now. Now you see how we are starting this one. How we are starting this one. The first one, the first paragraph. During the last decade, researchers usually focus on supply chain management issues in profit organizations. Research objectives may include adding value, reducing costs, or slashing the response time in various parties involved in the manufacturing supply chain. However, very few studies are attempted in non-profit organizations. An extremely scarce number of research papers focused on supply chain management in the academia. If I ask you the first paragraph, what I did, we did something. Look, we mentioned here first, second line, profit organization. Profit organization. And then you can see this one. If you look very carefully, that you can see this one. That's third line. You mentioned that in the manufacturing industry. Okay. And then if you look very carefully, you mention here non-profit organization. And finally, the academia. Do you understand something? Profit organization. Manufacturing industry is profit organization. And non-profit organization means academia. Service industry. Look very carefully. We are talking about this one. It means that in the latter part, we'll discuss about this one. Manufacturing industry, service industry. The latter part, we'll discuss about the academia and supply chain management. So that's the way that how you are confirm the initial level, what we are going to discuss here. You see, we mentioned here clearly in this one, you see, Recently, an increasingly large number of research or studies highlight the criticalness of supply chain management as a means to assuring organizational success. We are talking about the supply chain management definition. Look very carefully. We are discussing this one. We mentioned here, look very carefully. This exploratory study reveals the following objectives: analyze the overview of supply chain management through different citations, review extensive literature reviews regarding supply chain management based on secondary data, define supply chain management, evolution of supply chain management, analyze the trends in supply chain management, future perspectives. Look, we mentioned clearly this is a literature review, but we also mentioned we will also analyze the trends in supply chain management, future perspective. So though we are doing the review, but we try to say what will happen in the future as well. And literature review, you can see here mentioned clearly about this one. You see the year 1987, 1985, 1988, 1983, 1984. We are defining the supply chain management from their opinion. 2001, we all mentioned 2001. 2001, we mentioned this one. 2001, again 89, and then again 1988. Supply chain is viewed as a single process. We mentioned here. Can I go down? Am I go or not? Dezila, can I go down or not?
You should be 1 minute, sir. I'll reshare again. More.
Can you go down, please? Down, please. Yeah, down, please. Down. Down. Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Can you go down, please? You see, definition of supply chain management. We are talking here. Definition of supply chain management. 2.1. Yeah. You see, we are talking different supply chain management. There are different definition here. All are the literature review, nothing else. With the citation, with the mentioning about the parenthesis, from where you're getting this one. And can you go down, please? Yeah, can you go down, please? Yeah. Right. You see, we mentioned here the definition, and then we mention here supply chain management, from the viewpoint of a manufacturing sector, may be defined as, you see, and then we brought the citation here, and then we brought the another citation here. Then we try to mention evolution of supply chain management, historical perspective of supply chain management. It's all totally the review paper, a different review paper. You see the different years we mentioned. We mentioned the different area. You see, evolution type of supply chain management, 1950s, 70s, 80s, 95, 2008, 2007. So we developed this one 2008. Okay, and there are lots of references from where we are getting this one. And now, if you ask me in the review paper, can you write the research methodology? Yes, definitely. We can write this methodology. You see, we mentioned here the analysis of this research. Can you go down, please? After the this timeline, yes. The analysis of this research is based on the secondary data, including the online database. We mentioned online database, like digital library, books, journals, conference papers, etc. Extensive supply chain management research papers of academicians and practitioners are evolved from renowned international journals. Namely, we mentioned the name. Evolution timeline and future trends were developed based on the analysis of literature. The author classifies supply chain management in different areas of manufacturing service industry. You see, it's a methodology. All are based on the secondary data. All are based on the secondary data. And now, discussion. This is the your part, means your opinion. You can share your opinion. Look what he said here. It is a surprising fact that researcher develops. Can you go to the little bit down? Yeah. Second line, second paragraph. It is surprising fact that researcher develops supply chain models mostly for manufacture for improving business operations. Few, particularly academic researchers, do not realize that the research on academic supply chain management may also be conducted for their own education institutions. The performance of the supply chain manager depends on the seamless coordination of all supply chain stakeholders to ensure attainment of the desired outcomes. This research is based on only secondary data. Come on. Though it is a limitation of this paper. Come on. It is a limitation. However, this study would unlock frontiers for substantial researchers in order to further development in respect to supply chain management arena. Do you understand what I did? This is a discussion part, your part. Basically, your observation you have to mention here. And here we also mention about what I said. This is the limitation, this secondary data, but it unlocks the further frontiers. So they are giving the path so that you can work on that. Can you go to the conclusion part, please? You see, you mentioned here the first paragraph. You mentioned here, supply chain management has been widely researched in numerous applications during the domains during the last decade. We mentioned there that is why you are doing the works on the supply chain management. Despite the popularity of supply chain management research and applications, there remains a considerable confusion to its meaning. And that's why we are doing this review paper. There are several attempts made by researchers and practitioners to appropriate defense supply chain management. Amidst the fierce competition in all industries, supply chain management has gradually been embraced as a proven managerial approach to achieving sustainable profits and growth. You see, why we are working on this paper and what is the significance of this paper, we try to emphasize. Okay. Again, come to the last line of this one, we mentioned clearly here. This exploratory study, can you go to the next paragraph, please? Yeah. This exploratory study reveals the evolution of supply chain management in the various industries, including manufacturing and service industries, and its future trends. This paper would unlock frontiers for substantial researchers in order to further development in respect to supply chain management areas. So there is a review paper. So I give you the one example of the review papers, and you see the same process we published. So even is a review paper. Even is we published this review paper as a book chapter. So what I said is possible if you have that kind of quality. So that's very important, is that how we can ensure the academic right. Okay, can you close it please now?
Yeah, sure.
Can you come back to the PowerPoint slides again? PowerPoint slide, please.
Yeah.
No. I'm working on it. No problem.
Okay.
You can work. Okay, so this is a review paper. I give you an example of this one. You know, but just I show you the one book chapter, that book published from the Intech. I'd like to request participants, you can go to the Intech, you can write down my name, you can see this one. And that book chapter published in the Intech, it is that Web of Science Index. So, you know, it's very interesting thing is that until now, 21,000 readers, they read this book chapter. And there's a very interesting thing is that nowadays, if anybody do the research on supply chain management, they always start by this book chapter. And now come to the question, why they are starting by this one? Because this is the chapter with the introduction of supply chain management. So it's why you have to go to the many papers, why you have to go to the many journals. So no, you can come to this paper, you will get all kind of information of supply chain management. And that will create the one kind of impact upon you so that how you can do the remote research on supply chain management. And that's why you said that if published in a good peer-reviewed journal, review article often have the high impact and receive a lot of citation. I only mentioned 21,000 readers, they read this paper. And not only that, the most interesting thing is that, you know, I have a statistics. I think you can go to their Intech, you can also find it. Most of the readers from US, Most of the readers from the US. And second, highest one is at India. So they look very carefully when they are doing the research on the supply chain management, whatever the US or the India, they always start from here. But that is a very interesting thing. You have to understand that what is the significance of the review paper. So don't think that review paper is not the equivalent to the research paper. It depends on you how you can create this one. Okay, survey paper. I think you already got the idea about the survey. Yeah, I already mentioned about this one. Survey paper comprises the interpretation the author draws out after reviewing and analyzing several research papers which are already published on a specific topic. This means that you should have a point to make or some new conclusion to draw. And you will do so by collecting data from a broad collection of previous works. So look very carefully. There are two things you can see this one. A survey paper comprises the research in 5-8 papers on a particular topic. It includes your own comments on the significance of the approach and solution presented in each paper. It includes a discussion on future research direction. Okay. So you see, this very interesting thing is that suppose you have the 5-8 paper on a particular topic, same topic. Based on that, you can do the research. This survey paper, based on the few papers. And there's another way you can produce a survey paper just based on the primary data. What I said here is survey paper summarizes research in 5 to 8 papers on a particular topic. It is based on the secondary data. But you can also produce a survey paper based on the primary data. So any easy, simple topic, and do some survey. You have taken the interview with 100 respondents, 200 respondents, based on that you can produce the paper. Just the respondent's opinion. Based on the respondent opinion, you can produce the survey paper. So what I said there, this is a survey paper. So it means that you can produce the survey paper based on the primary data or based on the secondary data. It depends on you, how you like to produce the survey paper. And finally, the case study. You know that case study is about a person, a company, product, or an event. You can do the case study is about a person, a company, product, or event. I gave you the few examples. I mentioned already customer satisfaction KFC, customer satisfaction McDonald's, or maybe the traffic jam problem in Calcutta. Look very carefully. KFC is a company. Traffic jam problem is an organic event. Okay. If you are writing about a company, you need to make it interesting by writing a few paragraphs in introduction about the company and its history. When you start any company, at first, the first part in introduction, you have to say something about the company in introduction. It makes sense to talk about its growth along the course. With the course, it has taken the different shades from its competitors. You understand? You are doing the case studies, so you have to at least make sure some of the differentiation. This is not the same. How can you do this one? You like to do the research on the KFC. So definitely you have to check the McDonald's. Because KFC is a company of the McDonald's. You like to do you are familiar with the 7-Eleven Family Mart. You like to do the research on the 7-Eleven. At the same time, you have to check that Family Mart, their competitor. After you have introduced the company from different angles, one comes down to the real problem that he or she wishes to address and the reason for taking up the problem. It is at the end of the case study that a scholar must, what I said, that mobilize that his or her opinion, suggestions, recommendation for the problem that he or she has chosen for their case studies. So look very carefully. You are producing the case study, but your ultimate target not to only produce a case study. You target the prospect researcher. They can start the case study based on your paper. So that means you have to produce the case study paper based on that one. So I mentioned some key points. At first introduction, you have to mention the case study about the company, which company you need to choose. And then at the center, you have to check the competitors. So their working style and something based on that you can provide some comments or something. So that the prospective researcher, they can start from your case study. They can start from your paper. Okay, now this is the outline of research paper. I like to give you we are coming to the end of the stage. We'll discuss about the outline of the few research papers. And before that, I like to give an example of the. I like to give one example on the case study. Can you display the paper, please?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
So this paper.
Yeah. You see, we mentioned a case study approach for developing supply chain management models. A case study approach. We mentioned clearly the case study. So can you come down that what type of case study is there? If you look very carefully, we mentioned here. Sorry. Slowly, I'm coming to there. Abstract. Can you go to the abstract, please? Yes. You see JMI group. You see in the second line we mentioned here. This descriptive analysis simplifies the various events in sequence to design a conceptual supply chain management model for JMI group in order to explain different functions under supply chain management department. And then you mentioned JMI group, one of the prominent and diversified universal corporations in Bangladesh, was established in April 1999 and comprised of the 12 subsidiaries enterprises covering both manufacturing and service industries. Look, we're talking about the JMI group. This is a case study. So that means that now whole discussion based on the case study, JMI group. Even if you go to the down, can you go to the down, please? Can you go down? You see interaction, you're talking about, go to down, please. Yeah, can you go down, please? You see, all the explanation here on JMI group, but based on the supply chain management. You like to focus the supply chain management on JMI group. So you are using JMI group as a case study, but our target is the supply chain management. So the readers, those who will apply the supply chain management model, they have to think, oh, they're research on supply chain management. Oh, you can do the case study. Yes, you can do the case study. Can you go down, please? Even though we are talking about the manufacturing industry, because JMI, there are functions relevant to the manufacturing industry as well as service industry. Can you go to down, please? Down, please. Then next page. Down, please. They also, this is, we also methodology here. Go down. And number 4, supply chain management, 4th section, as a JMI group. That is that JMI group. We are now talking about supply chain management in the JMI group. Can you go down, please? And we develop the model. You see, this is a model in the JMI group. So we would say this is a supply chain management model in the JMI group. Case study. Go down, please. All kind of models, all are relevant to the JMI group. All are relevant to the JMI group. This is all based on JMI group. And JMI group, we are talking about this one. Okay. Thank you, Jasila. Can you go down, please? Down, please. Conclusion. What? You see, in this conclusion, what you said. This study simplifies the various sequential procedures to design the conceptual supply chain management model for JMI group in order to outline different functions under the supply chain department. You see, look very carefully. JMI group is one of the most capable, very first growing conglomerates in Bangladesh. The holistic view as a whole simplified models for individual companies and integrated models incorporate all the subsidiaries of JMI group, identifying the manufacturing service in the service process had been designed while framing the conceptual structure for the supply chain of JMI group. So now you understand what we discussed. Basically, we discussed the JMI group, and we like to use one case study, but we like to show there that how we can work the supply chain management. So now you are making plan You like to do the research on supply chain management, but you like to start with a case study. It's possible. Thank you. Can you close it now? Can you go back to the PowerPoint slides? This is a very interesting thing is that even if based on the case study, you can produce the research paper. Even based on the case study, you can add more quality values. It's possible. And that's why you said earlier, it not means that if you are doing the case study, that is not the standard of the paper. It's not the up to the standard. It depends on you how you can create the standard. The color has been changed. Why? Purple slide color has been changed. Do you know why?
No, sir.
Audiences, they can see this purple slides or not? I think they can see, right?
Yes, it's fine only, sir.
Okay, no problem.
We can.
Yeah. So what I said that you discussed a lot about the research paper. So that is the format of the research paper, like a title, abstract will be there, section 1, introduction, section 2, literature review, related works, section 3, methodology, section 4, model development, theory development, section 4, maybe presentation of data analysis, discussion, model evaluation, and section 6, the conclusion, finally the reference. Now come to here. That look very carefully. We are talking research paper. I say research paper, it could be the model development. It could be the model development. Okay. So when you have model development, then you are doing a theory development. In that case, your everything will be changed. Come to the point. Okay, number 1. Number 2. Even if you like to the no model development, but it's based on a survey, you have one concept based on a survey. So you take the 200, 300 respondents. So based on that, you can design the research paper. In that case, you have to manage a presentation of data analysis part. If you model, then model evaluation. If you don't have the model, then if there's a survey, based on that, you can do the data analysis part, presentation of data. So more or less, you have to use this outline research paper. Now, outline review paper. Look, review paper. So review paper is literature review, right? Okay. So basically, a section on the introduction, section 2 literature review. You should give the more concentration on the literature review, section 2. Outline review paper. We are doing the review paper, so you have to give the more concentration on the section 2 literature review. More concentration. It will be the more in terms of the contents. It will be the burst. It will be the burst with the large scale. Then methodology, just mention the secondary data you are using, and discussion your comments, your opinion, and finally the conclusion. And reference must be there. It's a review paper, but remember that in the review paper, literature review will be with the use area. You have to discuss many things. So there is a question of the references. So that reference is very important in the reference section. But I just remind you again that senior professor, when they review the paper, how they review the paper, any senior professor, they don't have the time. So I just show some tips for you so you can remember. At first, most of the professors, they check the abstract. At first, they'll check the abstract. If they understood that the abstract is well written, well structured, they thought that something happened. It's good. Then they'll go to the conclusion. If you see the conclusion, your findings, you mention the contribution. In the conclusion, you mention about the further study. You mention your limitation. Good paper. Finally, they'll check your references. From where you have collected, you Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was disconnected. I was disconnected.
No problem, no problem. So you may continue.
Oh, yes. So what I said that when you review the paper, then we check the abstract, at first the abstract, then references, then the conclusion, then references. So from reference, try to understand the quality of the paper. It's a tricky process. I like to remind you that you can apply in future when you work on the review paper. Make sure that your reference is very strong, your citations are very strong. You collect the information from those references. Okay. Outline of survey paper. So now you understand you are doing the survey and you are taking the 200, 300 respondents' opinion, and then based on the, you like to produce the paper. I always mention survey paper is very strong paper if you take the number of respondents more than 400, very strong. You're taking the people's opinion, and we cannot ignore the people's opinion. So same process, the title, abstract, introduction with the keywords will be available in the abstract as well, and the literature related works, methodology. Section 5, a presentation of data analysis. I just remind you again that in the paper, it is not the necessary to show the your all kind of result. Just show the some few main result. Like, so you have a survey question, there have 20 question. It isn't necessary that you have to show the 20 question in data analysis part, because it is a paper, conference paper or journal paper. You can show the 6 to 7 or 8 or maximum 10 question and answer. Okay. So data analysis, you can show the only just for 10 question. But you can do one thing, that appendix. You can add the appendix in survey paper. In appendix, you can mention about the survey question. It is not the mandatory, but if you like to show you survey questionnaire, I suggest you can show this one as an appendix. So after the reference, there will be the appendix. So you like to do research on the fishing, supply chain management in the fishing industry. Supply chain management in the fishing industry. You know the fishing industry. So you have to take the real fisherman. You have to take the interview. So they are not too much educated. So you have to ask them in terms of your own, in terms of their native language. Maybe the Hindi, maybe the Bangla, maybe the others. So that type of question is very important. That's why sometimes if you like to show your questionnaire, you can use the appendix. Appendix, you can mention your questionnaire. So you understand in survey paper, your most important part is the presentation of data analysis part. How you can present your data so that they can understand. You have to analyze the data. You have to analyze the data so that the audience, they can understand that why and how you are constructing this paper. And the last one, that outline of case study. You understand here the case study is important. So what I mentioned here, you have to understand that introduction, literature review. This literature review based on the case study. This literature based on your case study. If you do the one case study, that will be there. That information. So what I said, the GMI group, I think you remember that we mentioned earlier, supply chain management of the GMI group. That literature will come up from there. Or if you use the two case studies, sometimes you can see there's the two case studies or the comparative study between the 2 or 3. So in that case, you have to mention the 2 or 3 case studies here. So basically, literature review is you compiling information. So what is the target? You target supply chain management in the few service industry. So you just mention a few case study on supply chain management. And then methodology, secondary data, if you do this one, you have to mention from where you collect the secondary data. Then you have to mention about the discussion your opinion. So earlier I mentioned that you have to mention that one case study or 2 case study, 3 case study, but discussion with your own part, that what is the significance of this paper. See, because you are publishing the case study as a paper. So definitely you have to mention your own comments. You have to mention your findings from your analysis on the case studies. That is your discussion. Conclusion, you have to mention if you have any further study. And basically when you do the literature review, Earlier you mentioned that if you do the review paper, that time you must mention in the conclusion, this is the starting of the research. We like to develop the conceptual model based on the literature review in near future, or maybe the prospective researchers, they can produce a model based on the literature review, something like that. So similarly, case study you have to mention, based on the case study, we are planning to do the exploratory research, further research, and maybe it could be one kind of guideline for the prospective researcher. Look very carefully. You like to focus on case studies at first, then what is your next step from this case study? Call it is a part of the conclusion as a part of the start. Okay? And then finally the reference. That's all. That is the outline of the case study. So we discussed a few outline of your research paper, and then we match the review paper. There is important the literature review, and this is very important literature review. And the survey paper, your questionnaire is important, data analysis. You can add the appendix, your questionnaire. Apparently, the case study, your case study is important. So you have to mention the literature review, the case study. I suggest you, this is my personal opinion, is that whatever you do, you must focus on the to something. The methodology, how you are doing this one, and then conclusion. You further study, your further recommendation, any suggestion, something like that you have to mention. I think that's all from our discussion. So, Dijila, are you there?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So we have some more questions to be answered.
Yeah,
So we'll quickly move on to the QA. So our question is, most people prefer journal papers to conference papers because of cost and quality. Is it good to publish papers only in journals?
You know, but if you ask this question, I think I will give the reply, but I think whether you could like this reply or not, I like to request that you have to go at for the conference, then go for journal. And now, if you ask me that if you think the conference, then I have to travel. You know, yes, sometimes this travel is one kind of investment for you. This travel is one kind of investment for you, investment for the research. You know, I always mention that. Suppose if you join in the one conference, say in the UK, or if you can go to the Malaysia, say, it is one kind of learning for you that you can mix with the different multicultural people, multicultural scholars, and you can get more idea. And then what I mentioned that from the conference you can get some idea. Who knows? Maybe from the conference you can get some co-author, co-researcher, get the new idea. So if you are the new scholars, I will say that if you are the scholars, young scholar, you should go for the conference, then go for the journal. And then if you think the journal is easy for you, but you know that there is a possibility your paper may be rejected. If your paper is rejected from the journal, you'll be demotivated. So that's why the conference at first is the first step. Then you have to go to the next step, the journal. But in terms of financial issues like the traveling cost or the issue, I would say, why don't you can choose if you are in India, you can choose the Indian conference. There is India lots of quality conference. All conferences are the same. You are in the Thailand, you can choose some conference from Thailand. Then you have to go to the journal. But I always remind you that especially the young scholar, you shouldn't be demotivated if your paper is rejected. So if your paper is rejected, you have to keep this in mind. This is one kind of learning for you. Okay. So you have to start from the conference, then for the journal. Thank you.
Okay, sir. And the next question is how to club information given in various research papers for a review paper, or is it that we have to process the data given in research papers?
You know that research paper is, I already mentioned that review paper could be the one research paper. Even a survey paper is the one research paper. How you can present. If in the survey paper you just you like to highlight just findings from your survey questionnaire based on the respondent's opinion. Survey paper, but it's not the research paper as well. But if you think that you like to put the research paper, then you have to mention that. Suppose you would like to focus supply chain management service industry. So that means you at first the introduction, literature review, supply chain management service industry. Then you do the survey based on the service industry. Then you have to come to some findings. That means you are producing that research paper based on the survey. So that is the one way. So it depends on you how you can come to the decision. You like to publish just only just review paper, just review, nothing else, no research, nothing. Yeah, you can, but it's very simple paper. In terms of quality, research paper is the higher quality if you compare the survey paper or if you compare the case study. So that's why you like to always try to move to the like research paper rather than only the survey paper. So I suggest you can use the survey paper, you can use the case study, but your target will be the research paper. So you have to move your paper to that level. Say you are the BTech student or MTech student. I suggest you can go to the case study, you can go to the survey paper, you can go to the review paper. But when you move to the like next level, the PhD level, then definitely you have to move to the like research paper. You have to go for the research paper. Thank you.
We have a question related to case study that we were given an example. So the person have a question like, is it possible to take multiple cases of multiple organization for a case study paper?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Good question. You know what you can do this one. Most important thing is that it is not necessary that one case study. If you mention that a case studies, then only one case study. But if you mention that case studies, that is the plural, so you can take the few case study. Suppose you like to do the comparative study, so two case studies like to apply, or maybe not a comparative study. Just you like to give the on concentration on the one area only. Say you like to work on the digital marketing concept upon the service industry. So you like to do the 3+ service industry, and how about the impact of digital marketing? It is a case studies, 3 company, 3 organization based on the digital marketing. But you can do this one. So the case study is not required only one case study, it could be the multiple case studies. I personally prefer the multiple case studies. That times you can explain your opinion. If only one case study, sometimes it's difficult to come up with the opinion. You have lots of findings, you have lots of thinking. So in the 2 or 3 case study, even you can do the some company study, which is very easy, fruitful, and more effective. And you'll get the more number of audiences, those who will read your paper. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is the quality of a paper or book dependent upon the length or volumes, like, and also is there any standard for this?
You know that there are 2 types of book. One is the editorial book and the solo author book. I'm not sure that which one you are asking. In the editorial book, so there will be various chapters. There is various chapters authors. We prefer there is some standard. We assume that not more than 20 chapters, minimum 10 to 20 chapters. And now you produce the one book, the quantity is very high. Number of pages 500 pages. But do you think the people they will buy, they'll purchase this book and they'll read this book? It's difficult. So sometimes there is a question in the number of pages. We said that 200 to 300 pages in terms of number of pages, and chapter 10 to 20 chapters. And now you can decide. And it is not that necessarily the quantity is the issue, but large volume of people they don't want to buy the editorial book. And solo author book, again come to the question. Suppose you are the professor, you got the offer from the McGraw-Hill. McGraw-Hill, they're asking us, Professor, we like to publish your book, but duration is the important issue. So they'll give the one agreement with you. What is the agreement? 6 months. And before the 6 months, you send the one email. I'm so sorry, I couldn't finish it. No problem, Professor. We can extend another 6 months. Now 1 year. Again, unfortunately, before 1 year, you couldn't finish. Again, you can send the letter to McGraw-Hill. Sorry, I couldn't finish. No problem, Professor. Can you get another 6 months? Now comes the question. You are the professor. How long time you can take? So again, now you have to compromise with the number of pages. Reduce the contract. That is something. So we always do the compromise with the number of pages. If it's a solo author book. But if it's the editorial book, I believe is not very difficult because you are editor, you can take decision. If they couldn't maintain the time, you can exclude the chapter from there. So it not depends on the quantity and pace. But the standard means what I said in terms of the good looking, in terms of the people, so they're easy to get, easy to purchase, easy to access. So if they're like the 500 pages, sometimes it's difficult to download. But if the 200, 300 pages, it's easy to download. So that is something how we can come up with the decision, number of pages and quantity, and as well as the link everything. Thank you.
Okay. And our next question is, most times we publish with a lot of money without any financial returns. How can we get financial rewards from journal publications?
I always mention, if you think about the money from the publication, you shouldn't go for publication. Because publication will not consist of the money. Never. I published many books, even I don't know how many copies has been sold. Even I didn't ask the publisher, they didn't say anything. So that you have to understand. Okay, now come to the point.
Yeah.
Conference. If you join the conference, you have to registration. You have to do the pay. If you like to publish a journal, you have to pay. But I would say this payment is an investment. This is the investment of you. Who knows? Once a time, the journal they will ask you, Professor, can you submit one paper? It's free of cost. Even the regular journal fee is $500. You got my point? Who knows? Once a time you'll get the offer from the one professor from the different country. We'd like to publish your paper with you. Can you help us? He said, I don't have the time. No problem, Professor. We'll send the draft version. You can check. You can give some comments. We'd like to publish your paper. Your name. Look very carefully. How you can get this offer? You have to read the publication at first. And he said, I always mentioned that. Once the time when I joined the conference, it is before my PhD or during my PhD time. I went the conference by my own money, the registration fee, I paid by myself. But it is my learning, what I say all the time, that you should not think about the money investment. And I learned it from my supervisor, Professor Chaplain Jantha Rapanis. And he always taught me this one, that don't expect the money from the paper. It's investment. And nowadays, when I got the offer to join any conference, they're providing everything. So I don't bother about this one. But how I'm coming this level is a long time, long years has been passed. So that's why I said don't bother the money at first. It is investment. Yes, if there is a return, it will come up to you. But I know that some of the university they have the financial compensation. If you could publish the paper, the Q1, Q2, Q3 journal, there is some of the financial compensation. It depends on the university as well. You can explore, but I'd like to request don't explore the money during the publication. Thank you.
So we have a reply question to our first. We have been saying that in conference about the research, presenting the research. So the person has a reply question asking, what if the research is leaked, the information is leaked in the conference?
I don't bother the any information, whether it's a leak or something. It's nothing. It should be free, open. I got your point. I know that many PhD scholars, during the PhD, they don't want to disclose the conceptual model. They think that it will be disclosed to everyone. Why you to disclose? But I say that if you disclose your model in a conference, you can get some of the critic discussion from the audiences. You can get some real comments from there. And then maybe you can modify. And you know that you can say somebody they will copy from your model. I don't believe this one. Even if anybody copy your model, it is not the original of you. Because you're the original person, you did it by you. So you know that how you can change it, how you can modify it. They do not know this one. Even they don't know the technique, how you can do this. So no question of the league or something. You just think is that it is a disclosed to everyone means it's not like that they disclosed to everyone. It's like you like to learn many things from there. And another one thing, if anybody copy from your model, anybody copy your idea, so you are disclosed to everything. It not means that they are doing something. They are doing some unethical job. And when the plagiarism will check, that paper will come up. Maybe that officially can take the action against them. And there are lots of issues with this kind of action. Suppose you develop the one model, unfortunately somebody they are using your model. And there is the other question will be there. Then you can take the action against them. You can send the email to the editor-in-chief that he is using copying this one. And that is the other issue. But I would say that feel free to think. If I discuss my models, discuss my idea, and so what? I can get the more idea from the other people as well. And that is a way of learning. And yeah, as a researcher, we should not be the, I always mention that we should not be the close-minded thinking. We should be open-minded thinking. This is my personal view. I'm so sorry if it is not, if it is hard to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we'll move on to our next question. In the case of a review paper, how can we avoid plagiarism since it involves a lot of citation? Can we rate or count a review paper for the same way as a research paper?
Same. Similar index all the time the same. The plagiarism is all the time the same. Yes, I think if you join my last session, I mentioned you can first of all you can change the word rewording by the synonym thesaurus and change the voice, active voice to passive voice to active voice. You can change the tense, the present tense, the past tense. Or finally, the rewrite whole paragraph, paraphrase, the best option. And it is not very difficult. Not very difficult. You have to know. Even you can read their paper, you can using their paragraph in own word. Already changed. So don't think that even the similarity is very high. You can reduce the similarity index. Then you can submit. So do not think that the review paper similarity is very high. I cannot change. No, you can change it. You can change it. It's possible. And what I said that if the review paper, what I said earlier, 40%.
Yeah.
Maximum 40%.
40%.
Not possible the 20%, but at least 30-35% is not very difficult. And that's why you have to say this 40% cut. So there is a review paper because you are taking the review references citation from the others papers. Yeah. Thank you.
Next question is this: is it possible to publish an individual paper without a guide or co-authors? As an individual, whether we can publish a paper without any guide or co-authors?
It is possible. Possible. You can, but you know that supervisor, the two types of supervisor. Some PhD scholar, they remember their supervisor until they die. Some PhD scholar, they will forget the supervisor after they finish the PhD. It depends on the supervisor, how he is treating with you. So I would say that today I also mentioned my supervisor name. It's not necessary, right? I did. Because I learned it many things from him. So it depends. So that time I always think that even after my PhD, if I use his name, I always ask him, Professor, can I use your name? He says, sure, definitely. Until my PhD works, any paper publication, any journal publication, any book publication, I always use his name. Even he passed away, but I'm using his name because it's an honor to him. That is something. But if you think that you don't want to use the like supervisor name and other faculty name or any kind of guidance, you got it, the guidance from others, you don't want to use that, no problem. Carry on. But I personally prefer that if the senior people with you, sometimes you will get the more high impact on your paper because they will start their papers, so they'll get your paper. Okay. Thank you.
That's nice. And our last question, maybe we can go with how many references can be included in a paper, in a review article or survey article or case study? How many references we can add?
I would say that it's a minimum, at least 15. You have to think that 15 at least 15. So any paper, at least 15 papers is a minimum number. But if you ask me which is the best approach, 20 plus. So at least 20 plus is the standard one. But if not possible, at least 50. The minimum standard for the references. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you finish for today, right?
Yes. We are done for today. Yeah, and thank you, sir. And thank you for all the attendees who have attended us. And sorry for the technical issues that had occurred today. I'm sure that you can watch us on YouTube as well if you have missed our initial part of it. And for our upcoming webinars, please do follow us on IFERP Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And you can also subscribe to IFERP YouTube channel. Then I would also like to introduce to you our academic partners, which is offering a great opportunity for individuals who are looking for research article writing or thesis writing or your research paper in reputed Q1, Q2, Q3 journals. United Innovators. We have given the link and the joining link in the description box as well as in the chat box. If you're interested in writing a very good research article with zero plagiarism, you may seek United Innovators. We have given the details. And another information, we'll be tomorrow moving on to the session 4. And if you're a person watching from YouTube and would like to join us for session 4 and session 5, you may register now also. The registration gates are still open. And you may also start registering for our upcoming webinars, which is on intellectual property in engineering, science, and technology, and also which will be taking towards the end, which is regarding the PhD assistance and guidance. So till this month end, you will be completely provided with a very good webinar sessions, which is required for your career. So stay tuned with us. And if you haven't registered yet, we have given the registration links in the description box as well as the chat box. And for PPTs, we have given you the option to download the document from your section. Right on your right side, you can see file section and you can download by yourself. All that you require, the file section. Please log on to the file section and you can see the procedure for downloading your certificates as well as downloading the presentations. Other than that, if you have any queries, kindly do send us your queries to webinar@iferp.in. We'll make sure that we answer your queries at the earliest. And thank you so much. And thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Tomorrow again, we'll be joining with Professor Dr. Mamun Habib and with Dr. Sumit Narul. So stay tuned with us. Tomorrow, same time, we'll come back with a very good informative session.
So my session will be 5:30, right?
Indian time, 5 p.m.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
Yes.
So Indian time is 5 o'clock, 1 hour, right? Okay, I'll do the 1 hour. Thank you. Thank you so much. So if you have any participant, if you have any query, you can send me email directly or you can send the email to the IFERP, so they will forward to me. Thank you so much. See you in the next session.
Tomorrow, session 4. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Good evening, good day.